Hey guys, today I'll be doing a build guide on my Pure Fizz Scalemancer, I think. But before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe. So as you guys may know, I've been having a blast this league because of the new Harbinger farming strategy, Invaldo's Rest. And although a lot of people may think that this strategy is grindy, monotonous, and boring, it was the perfect farming strategy for a 3 IQ individual like myself. And since I have an IQ score in the single digits, it made sense that I ran a build that accommodated for this mental capacity. The build I decided to run to progress my Atlas this league was a Summon Skeletons Necromancer, or Pure Fizz Scalemancer if you will. The basis of this build is to make it so that your skeletons can clear your maps for you even when your toaster PC goes into anaphylactic shock. Because when your Harbingers are just a little bit too juicy and your video card is swearing vengeance upon all your ancestors, the cries for mercy by your CPU will be drowned out by the sound of your undead army shredding through the poorly rendered graphics in simulated real time. So without further ado, let's get into the video guide. Now the main sources of damage scaling for this build come in the forms of passive tree nodes, minion skill gem level, and cluster jewels. From passive tree nodes alone, this build gets a total of 190% increased minion damage and 36% increased minion attack speed. Now that's a lot of damage. If we add on a global +2 to minion skill gem level from our Ascendancy passive, and another +2 from our Convoking Wand, we'll have more damage than can be fully comprehended by my small brain. But wait, there's more. Slap on 2 large cluster jewels and 4 medium ones and we're looking at roughly 200,000 DPS increase per skeleton. And with 10 skeletons that can be summoned, that's around a 2 million DPS upgrade. I actually tried very hard this league to make it so that the build didn't need to rely on clusters, but with the current state of the meta, the build just loses out on too much DPS from these clusters. For your large cluster jewels, you'll want to grab Call to the Slaughter, Renewal, and Rotten Claws. For your medium cluster jewels, you'll want Dread March and Renewal on 3 of them, and the last one with Blessed Rebirth and Renewal so that your skeletons don't die too quick. Now let's talk about the gem setup. On your summoned skeletons, you'll want to link them to Multi-Strike, Minion Damage, Impale, Brutality, and Melee Splash. For boss fights and single target damage, you'll want to switch out Melee Splash for Melee Fizz. Next we have our Carrion Golem. This will be linked to Feeding Frenzy, Maim, and the spare Melee Fizz that you'll be switching out with your skeletons. For our Spectres, you'll raise 2 Carnage Chieftains from the Old Fields in Act 2, and 1 Host Chieftain from the Southern Forest in Act 6. These Spectres will be linked to Meat Shield and Blood Magic, which will allow them to generate Frenzy and Power Charges indefinitely for your other minions without running out of mana. For a line of defense, we have Raised Zombie linked to Meat Shield and Minion Life. These guys are mainly there to tank projectiles for you and taunt enemies that get too close. For our utility setup, we have Flame Dash, Desecrate, Bone Offering, and Convocation. And last but not least, we have our auras. Ideally, you would run Pride, Dread, Banner, and Flesh and Stone, but since I scuffed my build this league and tried to fit in a Sackwell's Nest, I'm now short on Fire Resist and had to opt for Arctic Armor instead of Flesh and Stone. That's what happens when you try to big brain a 3 IQ build, but I digress. Now for your gear, you'll want to fit in as much minion skill level and minion damage as humanly possible. Or inhumanly, I guess. That means we run multiple to Dust Cobalt Jewels wherever you can fit them on the tree and run a full set of rares except for the shield and amulet. I'll get into these much later in the video. For our shield, we'll be running On's Heritage. The reason for this is that it makes you tanky. By increasing your maximum elemental resist cap, the effectiveness of your damage reduction increases exponentially. So this shield is a no-brainer. I used to think the walkie-talkie shield was ideal, but that was because I was stupid. This shield made it possible to raise 4 Spectres, but that was basically pointless since this isn't a Spectre build. For the amulet, we'll want to grab the Jinx Juju. Stat attributes, Chaos Res, or Effectiveness, and Spectres will tank your damage for you. Need I say more? We'll also anoint this with Ravenous Horde to save on passive points. For our wand, we just want +1 to all minion gems and +1 to all spell gems. If you have an extra minion attack speed or increased damage mod on there too, that's even better. If you run the trigger mod at the cost of your minion's damage, you don't belong here. Now for our helmet, we'll want the Boner Helm, which is quite arguably the most expensive part of this build. On this, you'll want +3 to socketed minion gems, minion damage support, life, chaos res, and nearby enemies take increased physical damage. My helm doesn't have all of this because it's too damn expensive, and I wanted to wrap up this build guide before the release of Badger's Private League and the World of Warcraft Windrunner Private Realm. Our main line of defense is running one glorious vanity jewel in the name of Sibakwa, which allows us to allocate divine flesh by converting 50% of our damage taken to chaos and boosting our chaos resistance cap to 82% with On's heritage. We take a lot of less damage. So yeah, that's basically it. For all the remaining pieces of gear, just grab rare pieces with high life stat attributes and elemental and chaos resistances. Don't be greedy like me and try to fit in a Sackawol's Nest and Torrent's Reclamation. You'll regret it the moment you buy them. So that's the basic gist of this build. I did go through everything a little quick, but for those of you who really want to deploy this build to mindlessly farm the Atlas, I'll leave the POB link in the description below. And that's really all I have for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.